The air in the courtroom felt heavy, like a storm about to break. Kevin Costner sat stiffly at the defendant's table, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. His usual easy smile was gone, replaced by a tense jaw and eyes that flickered between the judge and the lawyer pacing like a predator in front of the jury box. The lawyer, Marcus Hale, was known for two things: winning cases and leaving scorched earth in his wake. "Your Honor," Hale began, his voice smooth but edged with mockery, "we're here today because Mr. Costner," he paused, glancing at Kevin as if the name itself were a joke, "wants you to believe he's a man of integrity. A family man. A hero." He chuckled, low and cold. "But let's not confuse Hollywood scripts with real life." Kevin's throat tightened. This wasn't about a movie. This was about his son. 6 months ago, his ex-wife had filed for full custody of their 12-year-old boy, Jake, claiming Kevin's filming schedule made him an absent father. But the truth was messier. After the divorce, grief had swallowed Kevin whole. He'd buried himself in work, yes, but not out of neglect. Out of fear that if he stopped moving, the loneliness would crush him. Now, Hale was twisting that pain into a weapon. Hale strode toward the witness stand, where Kevin's assistant, Maria, sat nervously. She'd worked for him for years, booking flights, scheduling visits, answering Jake's late-night calls when Kevin was on set. "Ms. Lopez," Hale said, feigning politeness, "how many times did Mr. Costner cancel visits with his son last year?" Maria hesitated. I don't remember exactly. Let me refresh your memory." Hale held up a document. 37 times. 37 times he chose work over his child. Would you call that Father of the Year material? Objection. Kevin's lawyer, Susan, shot to her feet. Argumentative. Sustained, the judge said flatly, but the damage was done. Kevin stared at his hands, his face burning. The number echoed in his head. 37. Had it really been that many? When Kevin took the stand, his chest felt like it was full of glass. Hale circled him, a shark smelling blood. "Mr. Costner," he said, "you played heroes in films, men who risk everything for their families. But in real life, isn't it true you'd rather fly to a movie set than attend your son's birthday?" Kevin's voice cracked. I was filming. I called him. "Ah, a phone call." Hale smirked. "How generous. Tell me, when was the last time you actually looked your boy in the eye and said, 'I'm here'?" The question hung in the air. Kevin's mind flashed to Jake's small face at the airport last Christmas, trying to smile as Kevin left for another shoot. The memory punched through him. I'm trying," he whispered. Hale leaned in. "Trying? Or failing?" Just as Susan stood to object, Hale turned to the judge. "Permission to approach the witness with new evidence?" The judge nodded, and Hale handed Kevin a photograph. It was Jake. But not the smiling boy Kevin knew. This Jake was pale, thin, hooked to and fro in a hospital bed. Kevin's heart stopped. "When was this? Why didn't anyone tell me?" Hale's voice softened, almost cruel in its gentleness. "Your son was diagnosed with leukemia 8 months ago. Your ex-wife didn't tell you because she knew you'd prioritize a film premiere over being there. And she was right, wasn't she?" Kevin's vision blurred. The photo trembled in his hands. No, I didn't know. I would've." "Would've what?" Hale snapped. "Been there? Funny, because according to hospital records, you visited once. For 10 minutes. Then you left to do a talk show." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Kevin's breath came in shallow gasps. It was true. He'd flown in after a press tour, saw Jake sleeping, and left, thinking, "I'll come back tomorrow." But tomorrow became next week, then next month. I didn't realize it was so bad," he choked out. Hale stared at him. "That's the problem, Mr. Costner. You never realize. The judge slammed her gavel, silencing the room. "Mr. Hale, where is this line of questioning going?" Hale paused, then did something unexpected. He sighed, running a hand over his face. For a moment, he looked almost human. "Your Honor, I've spent this case painting Mr. Costner as a selfish man. And maybe he is." He turned to Kevin, his voice quieter. "But 2 weeks ago, I learned something. My team tracked donations to the children's hospital where Jake is being treated. Over the past 6 months, someone anonymously paid for every experimental treatment, every specialist, everything." He held up a bank statement. "That someone is Kevin Costner. He spent nearly his entire savings trying to save his son. He just didn't want Jake to know, in case it didn't work." The room fell silent. Kevin's shoulders shook. He hadn't told a soul, not even his ex-wife. He'd been too ashamed to face them, too scared to hope. Hale set the paper down. I think he's a man who loves his kid but doesn't know how to say it. And maybe that's not enough. But it's not nothing." The judge adjourned the case for recess. Outside the courtroom, Kevin found Hale by the water fountain. "Why?" Kevin asked hoarsely. "Why humiliate me just to help me?" Hale didn't look at him. "I lost my daughter to cancer. I wasn't there for her either. When I saw those hospital records, I couldn't let you make the same mistake." He walked away, his polished shoes clicking down the hall. The next day, the judge granted joint custody, ordering Kevin to prioritize a visitation schedule. But the real victory came that afternoon, when Kevin walked into Jake's hospital room, sat by his bed, and whispered, "I'm here. For as long as you need." Jake, weak but smiling, squeezed his hand. "Okay, Dad." It wasn't a movie. There were no perfect speeches or guaranteed happy endings. But for the first time in years, Kevin felt like he'd finally gotten something right.